joining us live on the Facebook page of the US Consulate, Chennai. Please do keep posting your questions in the comment section, and I'll get back to you as soon as I finish with my presentation. I'll answer your questions. To quickly just give you an introduction to our organization, Education USA is a worldwide network of about 400 advising centers in 170 countries. We are supported by the US Department of State and come under the Bureau of Education and Cultural Affairs. And our mandate is to provide accurate, current, and comprehensive information about US higher education to international students. Okay, so what are we going to talk about in today's presentation? The first thing is we're going to talk about how US higher education is, what are the main features, what does it entail to finance your education in the US, understanding the cost of attendance, what is an I-20 document, how do you put together your financial documents that need to be submitted to the university, and subsequently for your visa interview as well. And what are some of the accepted documents? We'll talk about that as well. Okay, so as part of the process of understanding how to apply to US universities, we always tell students that you need to follow the 5 steps, you have to prepare at least about 12 to 18 months in advance, and you need to follow the 5 steps to be able to understand how to get into a US university. So, the whole question of understanding how to finance your education would be step 2, and I'll be talking only about step 2 today. And if you have other questions about the other steps, do feel free to email us, and we'll explain those details to you subsequently. So in step 2, we essentially talk about identifying cost of attendance, identifying the source of funding, and putting together the requisite proof of finances or the documents that you need to submit to a US university. So what is the cost of attendance? What all will you be paying for when you are going to study in the US? So there are 2 components to it. The first is the component related to your education itself, and the second is the component related to your living expenses in the US. So the first part, where it covers the tuition and fees, will include your educational instruction cost, which is your tuition. Any facilities that you are availing on campus, if there are any fees for that, it will include that. If you are a science major student and if you are using the laboratory facilities, you will have lab fees. And of course, the usage of library will also have some fee associated with that. So this will be related to your education, which is cost of attendance. Now, do understand that the cost of attendance will vary from program to program. It might vary from undergraduate planning and again, the cost will vary at the university. It's ideal to go and visit the university and check on that page what are all the things you will need to factor in when you are planning for financing your education. So do check that. It will again vary from university to university. Just to give you an idea, it might start upwards of $25,000 per year, depending on the type of institution, program. For example, if you're attending a university, you may not be living expenses, may not be as expensive as if you're attending a university in New York. Whereas in a small Midwestern region, living costs might be much lower, right? So keep those things in mind factoring in all putting together your proof of finance. Now, make sure you get the information about the exact cost of attendance, tuition fee plus living expenses. If this information you find that is not available on the university's website, please feel to check with them about the exact amount that it will cost you to attend that university. The next step is, of course, putting together these requisite funds. You will have to, of course, work with your parents if you're students, and You will have to discuss with them about how your parents are going to support you for funding your education. Not all universities will give you a full scholarship. Some might give you a partial scholarship, especially if you're an undergraduate student. If you're going to a community college, for example, you may not get any financial aid because costs are already much lower at a community college. If you're going for a master's or a graduate program, most often universities offer financial aid in the form of assistantships, either a teaching assistantship or a graduate assistantship, or they might offer it to you as a research assistantship. And most of these assistantships may be available only after you join the university. It may not be prior to your joining again. So and again, the assistantships are purely based on merit. Okay, so you must have a good academic record to be able to apply for these assistantships as well. So keep those things in mind and plan your family budget and talk to your parents well in advance as to how you're going to pay for your education. From the US government's point of view, it is important that all international students must be able to show proof of ability, especially for their tuition and living expenses. So at least for the first 1 year of education, you have to show that you have enough funds to pay for the first 1 year of education. All right? So whether you're going to the community college, undergraduate program, graduate program, it doesn't matter. You have to show the university that you have enough money to pay for the first 1 year of education, and that includes your tuition fee and your living expenses and all those components which I described earlier in the few slides earlier. Then of course, unless you show the proof of finances to the university, it is not likely that you will get the I-20. Okay, so please understand that your ability to show proof of finances, of being able to pay at least for the first 1 year of education, is directly linked to your receiving an I-20 document from the university. I'll explain what the I-20 is in my subsequent slide. Once you submit all your documents, which include you fill out the application form, you submit your statement of purpose, your letters of recommendations have reached the university, and your proof of finances have reached the university, they will then send you something called as an I-20. The I-20 is nothing but a certificate of eligibility for students who are going on the F1 visa, okay, the non-immigrant visa, student status visa. Now the I-20 would also be, in India you could say it's like an admit card. Okay, that without that you cannot apply to the university. You cannot join a university. You can't apply for a visa without receiving an I-20 basically. So keep that in mind. Unless you get an I-20, even if you get an email saying congratulations, you know, we've offered you admission, unless you get the I-20, it is not, you cannot say for sure that you've actually been offered admission by the university. Only with the I-20 can you pay the service fee and subsequently apply for your visa. With just an email or a letter that the university sends, you cannot apply for a visa. You need the I-20 to apply for a visa. So please bear that in mind. Okay, so also remember that when you're applying to universities, the university should be a service certified university, which is Student Exchange Visitor Information Service certified school. Okay. So do check that the universities that you have shortlisted to apply to are service certified. That's very important as well. Now the I-20 is it's an official document from the university. It is 3 pages long and it is posted to you by the university of your choice once they decide to offer you admission. Right? Now, many of you students might receive multiple admits. You might have applied to 10 universities and you might receive 3 or 4 admits or even 5 or 6 admits from universities. Then you have to write to the university with your proof of finances saying, I'm submitting my proof of finances. Once the university is convinced with your ability to pay your first year education, cost of education, they will then send you the I-20. Now some students have a tendency to ask all the universities who sent an admit letter, they ask all of them to send an I-20. But ideally, that's not the best thing to do. It's not that you cannot ask for all the I-20s, it's just that ideally it's best to make up your mind as to which university you really want to attend and ask that particular university only. You write to them and ask them to send you the I-20. That would be much preferable. Okay? But not to say that you cannot get multiple I-20s and then decide. Nothing to prevent you from receiving 5 or 6 I-20s and then making up your mind. But it's much better if you make up your mind first and then write to the university, because once you get the I-20, you pay the service fee, then that particular I-20 is linked to that service fee and that particular I-20 only can be used for the visa application. If you decide to change your mind and you let's say you've paid the service fee with one particular I-20 and you decide to change your mind and use an I-20 from another university and use that I-20 for applying for your visa, then you'll have to reapply all over again for the visa. you'll have to refill the visa application form all over again with the new I-20. So do remember that, don't be in a hurry, just the moment you receive the first I-20, don't be in a hurry to apply, and don't be in a hurry to ask for the I-20s also immediately. There is enough time usually for you to be able to make that decision, so keep that in mind. Okay, so this is what an I-20 really looks like. So as you can see, the name of the student will be given here usually. The name of the issuing university will be in the school information. The designated school official's signature, name, etc. will be here. It will include your service ID, which is given here. As you can see, the service is a fee that you have to pay. When you get the I-20, you pay the service fee first thing. The service fee is a $200 fee that you pay, and you go to this website called fmjfee.com and you pay the $200 fee and you get a service ID. And your I-20 will be linked to that service ID. Please understand that. Then of course, the I-20 will include the school code. So in the school information section, it will have your school code, program of study. It will explain what major that you are hoping to specialize in here. It explains what major you are going to specialize in. The program start and end date will also be mentioned here. Start of the classes and program start and end date will be mentioned here. And evidence of English proficiency, whether you have passed a TOEFL or the IELTS or the Pearson's test for English, and you know whether you have cleared it to the satisfaction of the university will also be mentioned in that I-20. How much it is going to cost you. So this is what it is going to cost you. Over here, it's not very clear on this slide, but it's given $56,000 to attend this particular university. So what it is going to cost you for the entire 1 year will be mentioned on the left hand side, and how you're going to pay for it is going to be mentioned on the right hand side. So that's the student's means of support. So if you're going to get any tuition waiver or a scholarship or an assistantship or any of that information, it should be mentioned in this section over here. Now for this particular student, you can see it only says family funds and $56,000. So whatever is the cost of education, the entire cost is going to be met by the student's family funds. But if at all you do receive any financial aid from the university, that information will be mentioned in this section, and that's something that you need to look out for. When you get the I-20, make sure that the DSO's signature is there. Sometimes you might receive an I-20 without the signature of the school official. Make sure that is not the case. Make sure that you read the I-20 thoroughly when you receive it. If you have any questions or doubts, immediately write back to the undergraduate or graduate admissions office and check with them if this is okay or not, if you have any doubts about the information on the I-20. Okay. So basically you need to show the university that you have enough money to pay for the first year of education. Okay. Now if the university, sometimes for PhD students, the I-20 will clearly mention that, let's say it's a fully funded PhD program, the I-20 will mention that. So in that case, does the student still require to submit financial documents? May not be necessary. It depends on the university. The university may still ask you to show for the first 1 year, even if they are giving you full funding. But for any other program like the undergraduate, community college or master's program, you have to show the university that you have at least enough money to pay for the first 1 year of education. Only in the case of a fully funded PhD, you might not require to show that. Okay? So do understand that. Sometimes universities may have specific forms to fill out for submitting the proof of finances. So check with the university if they have any specific forms that you have to fill out, or if there is any online form that you have to fill out. Is there any format that they prefer you to submit the proof of finances? Check with each university that you're applying to. That's very important. And also, of course, if your parents are paying for your education, then the parents can complete this particular form. So basically, you have to show that you have enough money to pay for the first year of education, but in case you're getting financial aid from the university, then you minus that from the cost of attendance, and that becomes the amount that you will show on your proof of finance. Okay, so what are some of the prerequisites? The financial document should be dated within 6 months prior to the date of submission to the university. In fact, if it can be at least definitely 6 months, 3 months also some universities accept, but it depends on the university. Again, things change from university to university. Ideally, make sure you have information at least 6 months. It can be bank letters or statement from the bank, other financial service providers. It should be official letterhead from the bank manager or the administrative officer at the financial institution from whom you are getting the financial support documents. If the statements are from someone other than the student. So for example, let's say somebody in your family is going to sponsor your education. It could be your grandmother, your grandparents, your uncles, your aunts, let's say. And if they're going to pay for your education, then you need to get a sponsorship affidavit from them stating that they're going to pay for your education. Apart from that sponsorship affidavit, you also need to submit their bank statements, which shows that they have enough money in their bank account to pay for your education. So please keep that in mind. If it's not your own bank statement, or you're not your own parents' bank statement, if somebody else is supporting you, or if some relative in the US is supporting you, then you need to get a sponsorship affidavit plus their bank statements showing that they have enough money to pay for your first year of education. All documents must be in English, that's most important, and certified by the requisite bank authorities. So basically your savings bank statements are acceptable, fixed term deposits like your FD statements are acceptable, government bonds like maybe an NHAI bond or something like that might be acceptable. Funds in any other kind of investment portfolio, here like something like the Kisan Vikas Patra or something like that, but that again you need to verify. Certain universities may not accept other investment portfolio documents, certain universities might accept if it's a government related investment portfolio. So do check with the university. Support letters for scholarship or any unconditional financial aid, that if you are a working professional and if your company is sponsoring you to go and study in the US and if they are paying for it, then you need to make sure they provide the financial documents related to your study. Or if you are getting a loan scholarship or a full scholarship from a private trust or a foundation, it could be the Tata Trust or it could be like INLAC Foundation or something like that, then make sure that their documents are with you available in time to submit as part of the proof of financial portfolio that you're submitting to the university. And of course, if you are applying for an education loan from a particular bank in India, then make sure that you have the approved documents relating to that loan that you've applied for. And it has to be it can't be a pending loan approval sort of document, it has to be an approved statement that you have been approved and given the loan. Okay. So what is not acceptable? Salary slips or payroll statements or IT statements won't be acceptable. Tax returns not acceptable. As I said, pending or provisional education loan documents are not acceptable. Chartered accountant's certificate of assets not acceptable. Statement of property ownership not acceptable. Precious metal, gold, etc., shares, mutual fund documents not acceptable. So all these are, please understand, not accepted. Okay, so please remember that. Okay, so you can look up our official website, which is educationusa.info, 5 steps to study, the step 2, graduate step 2, finance your studies. Similarly, like for the graduate study, there is for an undergraduate study also, there is a section which explains. You can just go to the educationusa.state.gov website and look at the step 2 section, and you will find information about financial information. And of course, you can look at studyinthestates.dhs.gov website as well. You will get a lot of information here. All right, so with that, I'm going to just tell you what services we offer. We have information sessions like the one I'm doing right now, which pretty much is on Thursdays from 3 to 4:30. We have one-on-one personalized advising for a fee. Our membership is for 7,500 for an annual membership, and each student is assigned to an advisor who will guide the student right from shortlisting all the way to the pre-departure orientation. We help walk-in students by giving them accurate information, and we have a reference library that students can access as well. These are some of the services that we have. We have a webinar every Saturday at 10 a.m. that you can log on to. You just need to go to this website and sign in with your name and email ID. You can visit our YouTube page, Education USA India, where we have a lot of videos that we've uploaded on every step of the application cycle, so do have a look at those videos. We post relevant articles and scholarship information on our Education USA Chennai Facebook page, and if you wish to know more about studying in the US, the official website is educationusa.state.gov. And if you'd like to know what events we are hosting at the USIF office here in Chennai, or if you would like to know the content of the webinars that we are going to host for the month, please visit the USIF website and look up the calendar of events, and you'll be able to figure out what are some of the sessions, upcoming sessions that we're going to host. Right? So with that, I'll stop my presentation. If you have any questions here in the audience, and for our online audience, if you have any questions, please do type them into the comment section and we'll endeavor to answer them. Right? Thank you. Yes, please.
So this bank education loan approved by the bank, or it could be any non-banking financial institutions like Sundaram Finance or something else is also accepted?
It depends, yeah, it should be acceptable, but then again it will depend on the university whether they will accept it or not. So, you can send it across to them and check with them if that's acceptable. We haven't heard of a case where it has not been accepted, but it's always best to check with the university.
And suppose we have a higher property value. Now, the reason being that because of the calamity now, very difficult to get this kind of loan from the bank for undergraduate students.
Okay.
So therefore, so it's become more and more strict and you can't get the job done. Is there any other alternative where we can show a property value, like is it chartered accountant?
No,
it's not acceptable.
It's not acceptable. Chartered accountant statements are not acceptable.
Assets, does it?
No, it has to be in a liquidable form. Fixed assets, yes, fixed assets are not acceptable by universities. They want assets which are easily liquidatable.
In your experience, if I go for a bank loan for my child, and do you think they give a provisional approval or they say we will sanction you the loan?
See, initially before you get an I-20, the bank might just give you a provisional letter saying that we can sanction provided the students receives the I-20 or something like that. They might give you a letter like that which you can use to send to the university.
You can take the letter from the bank, which
yes.
is actually provisional, getting the subject to getting the I-20.
I-20, this will be, yes, that is what the letter should say from the bank manager, subject to student receiving the I-20. Provisionally it is approved. Yeah, I-20 is definitely required. They will not approve the loan without the I-20. So, you need to tell the university that this is a provisional letter that we have received from the bank.
How soon can we start that, in case we are going for a loan, how soon can we start it?
Depends on the relationship you have with your bank really. I mean, I can't answer that question. Ideally, if by December or January of this year, let's say your son or daughter is applying for fall 2018 and the moment you submit all your applications, you should start talking to the banks, I would say. Because that you might need that much time to show the bank that you have whatever assets that you have. If you're going to mortgage them or whatever, you will need time to do those processes. So, ideally from the point that you complete submitting all your applications, start talking to the banks is my suggestion. But again, it depends on the banks how soon they are willing to talk to you, and if they think it's too soon, they might say wait till you get an email or something from the university confirming that you've received an admission and then come talk to us. That can also happen. So, but you can, nothing wrong in your exploring the options available. So, once you finish all your application submissions, go ahead and start talking to banks.
One question I have. And some ministries, like you rightly said, they accept the statement of account 6 months prior to the legal. But some industries from 3 months time.
Yes, they do.
Will it be fine if I, even though they say 3 months, can I take it for granted that if I send it for 6 months, it's okay? Or
yeah, that's fine. No, they won't have an issue. As long as you have the money in the account and it says that you have enough to pay for the first year of education.
3 months before, suppose we are in February, it should be November. Suppose I show them someone in July or August.
As long as it is updated till a week prior to the time that you're sending it, it's good enough. Don't just show for 6 months prior a statement.
Your statement can be as old as 6 months, not a problem.
Yeah, but it's best to have it updated just prior to your sending it to the university, so that there is a record for the past 6 months from say a week before the date that you've sent it to the university. That's better.
So as a businessman, we don't park our money there.
I totally understand that, but then the university also has its fears about people borrowing on short term and then submitting the document and then returning it. So, they also need some reassurance that you have really the capacity to pay at least for that first 1 year.
And
so,
IT
that's why they
papers
need to. No, they don't accept the IT papers. Any other questions?
Bank statement, you get a statement from the bank showing your savings account amount and a list of fixed deposit and their amount.
Yes,
that's enough.
Yes, the bank manager's letter, the bank statement and your FD, the whatever certificate or something that you have for the FD.
I got a statement with the number of
the statement is fine, but it's better to attach a copy of your certificate and your bank account statement also. Your savings account statement.
My bank manager did was he typed out each number of the fixed deposit receipt and the amount, and he gave me a list of that. The total.
That's perfectly fine, but that's like a covering letter. I would say please still attach the savings account your savings account statement as well as your FD, whatever statements you have relating to your FD. If it's a certificate which says the amount and the day it's going to mature, that's better to have that as a supplementary documents along with the letter from the bank manager. It's always better to have, more is better than less.
Okay, that is even for submitting to the university.
Yes, it's ideal. The university should also know by when this FD is going to mature, or is it easy for for you to break that FD to be, if you have to make a payment for your son or daughter's education. If the date of the date of the end of the FD is, say, let's say 2 years from now, they would like to know that it is possible for you to break that FD if required.
Yeah, but that
so
also they have mentioned in the
if the bank manager has mentioned, it's
But
good,
it can be
but I would
withdrawn
still
at any
advise
point
you, I would still advise you to attach those documents.
There'll be a lot of documents.
You can, my suggestion is send the letter from the bank manager, and you can mention in your covering letter to the university that should you require actual copies of these FD certificates, I will subsequently provide them. So you're keeping your options open that way.
What about the PPF account money?
Yeah, PPF is accepted. PPF is accepted.
Mutual funds?
No mutual funds, no shares, no gold documents. Sorry?
2-3 documents.
Yes, yes. It can be like, let's say you can have some amount of the money is from the loan, some can be an FD, some can be your savings, some can be the grandchild being sponsored by the grandmother. So grandmother's letter of sponsorship affidavit plus the grandmother's bank statements. It can be a combination of things. It all doesn't have to be in one account in one person's name. That's not compulsory. It can be multiple sources of funding. Yeah.
One last question.
Yeah. I'll come to you just a minute, please.
Sorry.
I'll come to you just a minute.
Is it enough to show the proof of the exact fee for the student, which is, say, 30,000 USD? Or do you have to show along with them, say, 20,000 USD for the accommodation?
No, it includes everything. Please note, I said.
I came a bit late. That's why.
Okay, I'll show you that. Yeah. It has to show A plus B. A being tuition and fees, which includes your education instruction cost. So it could be cost per credit for each course or whatever. Facilities that the student might use, it could be anything from a fitness center to a swimming pool, whatever facility the student is using, to lab equipment, lab fees, plus the library fee. That's related to your education per se. Plus your living expenses, which includes room and board if you're staying on campus, your books and supplies, transportation, personal expenses, health insurance. Even if you're living off campus, they will still like you to show that you have enough available to pay for what it costs in that particular city where the university is located.
Okay. Cost of attendance mean, according to me, the education facility, lab, library, all
Plus
together.
all of this together is
Final
cost of, yes, all of this together is equal to how much it's going to cost you for the first year
So
of
it's amount I
education.
pay to them for
Yes,
the fixed credit.
yes. Let's say this on the left side, part A, tuition and fee is about $25,000 and part B is about, say, again about $18,000. So about $38,000 is what you will have to show to the university that you have in your account on the day that you send the documents in whatever various ways that you're showing it.
The more the better.
It doesn't have to be double or anything of that, but little more than that that meets that first year of education is better. Yeah, you had a question at the back.
While applying for the I-20, I show the bank statement, and while actually going for the visa interview, if I avail a loan for tax benefit, will it be fine, or?
Yeah, see, let's say when you had enough money in your bank account and you've submitted it for the university's application, but subsequently you've got a bank loan document, a letter confirming that you've received the loan, you can use both for the visa interview. If the officer should ask you how you're going to pay for the education, you can say it's a combination of family funds and a bank loan, right? So that will be for your first year of education. The officer might turn around and ask, if you're an undergraduate student, how are you planning to pay for the next 3 years of education? You need to be able to explain that you have a concrete plan of how you're going to pay for it. So this officer will expect you to explain, are you going to mortgage your property, sell your property, take another bank loan, how are you going to pay for it? And it has to be convincing enough for them to know that your family can afford it. All right. And if you're a master's student, then you should be able to say for the second year, what is your plan? How are you going to pay for the second year of education? You need to have a clear plan and you need to be able to explain it to the officer when you come for the visa interview. All right. And also sometimes when you, the documents that you submit to the university, the same documents updated, say to a week prior to your visa interview date, you can use the same documents at the visa interview as well. Let's say there is no change in the status of your financial proof of finances, except the fact that you need to update it. Because let's say you applied in December of 2017, and those documents you sent are valid only up to December 2017. So when you come for the visa interview, let's say in June you go for the, in June 2018 if you go for the visa interview, make sure you get the statements updated up to June 2018 and take those for the visa interview.
The current statement.
As current as possible.
So at that time, we will require all
Again,
the
one
fixed
more.
deposit certificates and all that.
No, as long as if the letter should suffice. You don't have to take the originals or anything like that for the visa interview.
Because
Take a
one
copy
my
of it.
friend,
Take a
for
copy.
her daughter, she
Yeah.
liquidated all the fixed deposits, put it into a savings bank account, and she showed.
It's not necessary that you have to liquidate it, as long as you're able to explain to the officer that you can break that fixed deposit in time for you to pay the fee for the student. That is more important.
But which is better? To keep it
The
as a
choice is
fixed-
yours really. The
Okay.
choice is yours, as long as the student can explain to the officer that the parents are going to do this and the bank authorizes you to break that fixed deposit in time to pay the university's admissions. Yes, you had a question?
Is there a question like, since you have this much amount in your bank, right, why are you again going for a loan? If they ask something,
What would you say if they were to ask you that? Why are you opting for a loan then? Why don't you answer that question for me?
no, can I just say it's for tax benefit that I'm applying for a loan?
You could say that, or you could say that some part of this will be used for my first year of education, and to meet my expenditures for the second year, I am opting for a loan. You can even say that.
25,000 you mentioned, right, that minimum amount, right?
No, that is not the minimum, it's just a range. In a public university, the fee can range from $18,000 a year to $30,000 a year. In a private university, it can start at $35,000 a year and go up to even $70,000 a year. This is just a figure, and one figure we have just given you showing it could be for any university. But this is not the minimum or the maximum or any of that. It will vary from program to program, university to university, location of the university also, it will change. So please don't take that as the ideal figure. It's only to give an example, I've put a figure there. Yeah, it can, public universities, it can range from starting at $18,000 per year to $35,000 per year. At a private university, it can cost you anywhere from $35,000 per year to $70,000 per year. It depends on the program that you're studying, the university that you are choosing, and the location of that university also. The fee will vary for all of these. It's not a fixed fee across universities, across programs. It will vary program to program, university to university, and location of the university as well will determine what the cost of education is.
Do the
Yes,
parents
please.
be allowed to accompany the child, the guy who's going for undergrad?
Yes, you can. You can apply for a business visa, tourist
No, no,
visa.
no, what I'm asking.
Yeah.
For the visa process,
No, the individual goes on their
So
own.
he
The
has
student
to
will
equip
go on
that
their own.
system.
Yes, you must equip them, explain them where you got the money so that they are able to answer
because we are not
clearly.
used to that slide here.
You have to.
You always go with that.
Students, you have to explain to the student how they put together the funds that you put together, because the officer can ask the student that information.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, please.
So,
Good evening.
My I-20 is around, say, $25,000. Is it advisable to take a loan for that amount fully, or there should be some amount, like I said, towards family funds?
If you're able to get a loan for the full amount, that's, I mean, nothing wrong in showing that as your proof of finances, but that might, again, please understand, if the I-20 says 25,000, it's only for 1 year. And if you're going for a master's program, even though you don't have to show documents for 2 years, you still need to explain to the officer how you plan to pay for the second year. So it's good to have some personal funds also to show if you can. It might be advisable. Or if you have some other kind of plans for how you're going to pay for the second year, make sure you have the documents related to that, or at least you should be able to explain clearly to the officer how you're going to pay for the second year. And it's always useful to have some funds of your own as well to show. Any other questions? Do our online viewers have any questions? FB? No?
Payment, when we have to arrange payment, we have to make this
It's usually after the student joins the university.
joints.
Yeah.
That time only.
Yes.
we should-
Yes. It depends again on the university. It's, mostly it's after you joining, around the time of joining the university, you'll be paying, you'll be making the payments.
The rule that not to get more than 1 month, can't mention more
I didn't say, I said it's preferable if you make up your mind and then apply for that particular I-20. A lot of time. No, there's nothing wrong in receiving multiple I-20s. But before you pay the service fee and start applying for the visa, make sure you make up your mind as this is the university I'm going to. Otherwise, you'll have to redo the visa process all over again with the new I-20 if you change your mind. So nothing wrong in receiving multiple I-20s. Just make sure that when you're applying, when you start filling out the visa application form, that you're sure that that is the university that you're going to go for. Otherwise, you have to repeat the process all over again. So to avoid that, make up your mind. Yes, you can apply for a visa 120 days prior to the start date of your program at the university, which is mentioned on your I-20. Yes. No, it will be mentioned on your I-20. Work 120 days backwards from the start date of that program. And you can travel to the US 30 days before the start of your program. Any other questions?
One last question I have.
Yes.
My son has got a visa for 10 years.
A B1, B2 visa.
A tourist visa.
Yes, B1, B2 visa. Yeah.
Do you have to, continue with that or?
No, he will have to apply for an F1 student visa. All students, international students going to study in the US, travel on the F1 student visa. So the B1, B2 will remain, it will remain valid.
You don't have to cancel.
No, you don't have to cancel, you don't have to do anything to it. That remains valid. Let's say the student wishes to travel to the US prior to the 30-day allowance that is given to students, right? Then he can travel on the B1, B2. If let's say you want to visit some relatives or friends in the US, the student and you can travel on the B1, B2. And then when the student joins the university, he'll have to make sure that his status is changed to an F1.
Okay, suppose
That is something that
there's
we'll
a
have to
purity given 10 years when you already have a.
No, nothing. It makes no difference whether you have a 10-year
It's all
visa or
fresh.
not. It's all afresh. They look at you as
And you have to apply 3 months before the.
120 days prior to the start of the program at the
Not-
university.
Okay, because when you get the I-20.
You can't, let's say you get the I-20 in January 2018 itself, you cannot apply for a visa. Let's say the program is starting in August, work back 120 days from that August date when the university is starting the program, and within those 120 days only you can apply for the visa. Even if, let's say, in August 2018 the university is starting the course for your son, let's say. Work backwards 120 days.
May.
May is when you can apply for the
May is the
visa.
time when you get the confirmation from the university also.
No, the I-20 is a confirmation that they have given you admission. You can apply for
When does that come?
any time after January 2018, you can start getting the I-20. Some students have already received it. If they'll receive an email and saying congratulations, you've received an admission. Students will usually, the first step is they receive an email, and then you have to submit proof of finances to the university once you get that email. Once you submit the proof of finances and the university is satisfied with your ability to pay for the first 1 year of education, it will then send you the I-20. Once you get the I-20, you have to hold on to it. And as the student asked, you might get multiple I-20s from 4 or 5 universities. Hold on to it, then make a decision which is that one university that you want to attend. Using that I-20, pay your service fee, and then fill out the DS-160 form, which is the visa application form, and pay your visa fee, which is again $160 that you have to pay. Yeah? Any other questions? Yes, please.
The PGCS exam, there is no process of I-20.
No, you still need the I-20.
Or is it just-
Yes, you need the I-20 to travel to, you need the I-20. You don't need to apply for a visa or anything like that.
Oh, okay. But still,
It's better to get the I-20. You want to add to that, Chandni? Yeah.
Usually they may not require an I-20, but there will be something like which confirms their admission.
Yeah.
As a US citizen, they don't require an I-20.
But you need to have proof of admission.
Proof of admission has to be sent by the university.
no admission means whatever they
There will be
say.
some
It will be a letter or it could be a letter. Yeah.
Before submitting the financial documents.
No.
Then we don't have to submit the financial documents to them?
No, you have to.
You need to submit the financial documents for them to understand that you are capable of paying for the education, and then they will send you a confirmation document. This is not like I-20. It is not I-20.
It could be a different letter.
Content and
But you still have to show proof of finances, irrespective of whether the student is an American citizen or an international student. You have to show that you can pay for the first year of education. Any final questions? Yes, please.
So, once I receive an admit of that an email saying that I've been admitted to the university, the proof of finances which I send to them, should I send a courier of photocopies of the statement or
You could ask the check what they are saying. Some of them might be willing to accept if you scan and send it, they might be willing to accept it. Some of them might want you to courier it to them. Again, it depends on the university, what their preference is. Some of them may have a form that you might have to download, fill out and then attach the supplementary documents. So that again is possible. As I said, everything varies. Program to program, university to university, it will vary. You will have to check with that particular university that you have received the admit from. Yes.
So they have to apply for visa 120 days prior to
Start of the program.
Yeah. And they have to get the confirmation by April. No?
They will usually get it by then. They will. Most students will receive it by then. Yes, please.
Sponsors are my father and mother,
Mm-hmm.
and there are three types of accounts. There are a joint account between myself and my father and my mother. So all these three accounts are valid. Right?
Yes, they are. Yes. And they're not your sponsors. As parents, they're not treated as sponsors. Sponsors would be ideally relatives of yours other than your parents. But again, it depends.
I would like to
Yeah.
add a point here, because in some of the universities do have a terminology. If the student is not the account holder, every other person is treated as a sponsor.
Yeah, that's with some universities it is there.
Sometimes yours might come under a family fund. Because it's father, mother,
Exactly.
and probably if you have a personal account, or everything put together can form a family
Yeah.
fund.
Show it as family funds. That's the best thing. If it's your parents and yourself.
So when should we submit these financials? Because if you have a few admits and they say that you submit the financials, we'll send you the I-20.
See, it depends. In some universities, when they send you an email, they might ask you to pay a deposit also. They'll say pay a $200 deposit or a $150 deposit. Some universities do that, so that they will keep that seat confirmed for you in a way. Okay? And then they will say submit your proof of finances and then you will receive the I-20. So if the university doesn't ask you for a deposit, but if it gives you a deadline by which you have to confirm to the university that you're accepting the admission, make sure that if you are accepting the admission, make sure you let them know that you are accepting the admission, because only after that you will receive the I-20. But if certain universities are very open and they don't have these restrictions, you can wait, and they might, maybe till even May 1st, they might be willing to receive the acceptance decision from the student. If that's the case, then you have more time to decide.
No, because one of the universities hasn't mentioned. They've just asked for proof of finance, after which they will send an
Yes,
I-20
it is
letter.
always like that. You have to submit the proof of finances if you wish to receive the I-20.
Yeah, and the other universities have sent a letter of admission, and they've given a time frame that you accept before this.
Correct. That is the case, and you accept, and then you send this proof of finance, and then they send you the I-20.
So the one that wants a proof of finance before, should I submit?
Yes, please do. You had a question? Yeah.
Let's say if parents are not able to fund completely, and then there's a third party involved. How does that work?
That's where you get the letter, sponsorship letter, sponsorship affidavit it's called. You get that sponsorship affidavit plus the bank statements of that person who's going to fund this child, and that statement should show that the person has enough funds available to pay for the student's education for the first 1 year at least.
So let's say that the party is not related.
That's also fine. It doesn't matter as long as they give you a sponsorship letter plus their bank statements. If your sister or brother want to fund you, yes. Yes, and their bank statements showing they have enough money to pay for your first year of education. No, your parents and you will be family funds. Any final questions? Yes, please.
You said there is a charge for like $7,000 or something.
7,500 rupees is the annual membership charge at the US India Educational Foundation.
So please tell us what
Okay, so what we follow is a guided advising module, and a student will be assigned an advisor. The student will be explained how to shortlist university, where to look for information, what kind of information to consider when you're shortlisting university. So student has to come up, do the research, the homework, come up with the list, and they discuss that shortlist with their advisor. The advisor will do 3 reviews of their statement of purpose or essay. we can advise the student on how to recraft their resume. We do not look at the letters of recommendation as part of this membership because that's a confidential letter from the student's teacher or professor to the university. So we do not include that in this membership. We do advise them on any questions they have when they're filling out the application. We do not fill it out for them, but when they are filling it out, if they're stuck with certain questions, they're welcome to email us those questions and we guide them on how to respond to those questions. And we invite them for the visa information session, which is conducted by the American officer, and we invite them for our pre-departure orientation. That's what this membership includes, and we have reference books in our library which the student can access as a member. Any final questions?
So just can you repeat how to the financial statement which proof which we have to give to the send to the university? How we can include what all?
Okay, so basically it should be dated at least within 6 months of the date of sending it to the university. It can be your bank statements, fixed deposit statements. It can be government bond statements. Here it is, fixed deposit statements, government bond statements, which are maturing prior to the first term at the university or available for withdrawal anytime. All right. Funds and other kind of investment portfolios might be accepted by some universities, for example, like the Kisan Vikas Patra or the PPF or something like that, but it's always advisable to check with the university if they will accept this particular document as proof or not. If the student is receiving a scholarship or a loan assistance from a bank, then they can get the approved education loan documents. But suppose the student is getting a grant or a loan or a scholarship from any trust or foundation or their employer, then they need to have some information, some documents that show that particular support as well from that organization. So this is what you need to send to the university. These are the accepted documents.
Fixed deposits are only the government bank, PSUs, or even Sundaram Finance? And
a fixed deposit statement is perfectly fine. All right, so we'll end the presentation with this. If you have any further questions, do email us at usiefchennai@usief.org.in. We look forward to you being part of our future sessions. In March 1st will be our next session. So do look up the calendar of events for what we will be, for the information about that particular session. Thank you so much for joining us today. Bye-bye.
Thank you.